Hi there, and welcome to Clubs 201 Advanced Club Training, the second episode, and specifically the last episode of this academic year. And it's fitting because we're talking about end-of-year transitions, leader succession, and club renewal. My name is Walter Lutsch. I'm the Student Engagement Specialist.
And my name is William Wasson, and I'm the Student Clubs and Organizations Senator for Student Government.
Since we're getting to the end of the year, it's a great time to be talking about how to wrap things up as a club and how to set your club up for success in the next year. The end of an academic year is often a time when students are graduating and transferring out, which can make it tough to restart again in the next quarter or year. Even if none of your club officers are moving on this year, there are still very important things for you to do to set yourself up for success for next year. The most important is to look back on how this year has gone. Reach out to your club members. Get some feedback. Check in on how your meetings are received, how your events have gone, what people might feel like is missing from the club. Start making plans for next year. Think about how you're going to execute the things that people might have recommended, or some of the things that you've wanted to do for a while but haven't had the time. Look ahead specifically to the new crop of students we're going to be getting in fall quarter and how you can demonstrate the best of your club at the first Clubs Rush and other recruiting events. And in this particular case, if you're listening in 2020, spend a lot of time thinking about how you're going to make the best virtual club meetings you can. Because in the fall, we're going to be online only. So dream up activities that you can have online, communication methods, quiz your existing club members about what would have attracted them to the club, even if they weren't able to see it in person.
One of the biggest problems that clubs face is the transition from the ending of a year and the beginning of another one. What comes with that is a lot of your club members are most likely going to be leaving. And one of the members leaving could even be your president.
All of these things contribute to what we in student life often refer to as the 1 or 2 year lifespan for clubs. In the years that I've worked with clubs, I've seen a lot of fantastic clubs get started with some wonderful leaders who have the organizational skills and the willpower to get things off the ground. And the club runs for 1, 2, maybe even 3 or 4 years at a university. And then when that person graduates or leaves, or that set of officers who'd started the whole thing have to transition out, the club isn't able to continue after that. So we're going to talk about a 5-step battle plan to try and prepare your club as best as possible so that it can survive the summer and make it back restarting in the fall as good as new. And step 1 of this plan is to find a worthy successor for any of the positions that are becoming vacant. If we were on campus, and for those of you listening to this podcast in the far future when COVID-19 is but a distant memory, this will be nice and easy for you. Elections are the most obvious and straightforward way of identifying who's interested in taking up a new position. Most commonly, these elections are going to be held in person with a simple vote towards the end of a quarter. But since we're not on campus right now, we've compiled a list of resources and services that'll help facilitate remote elections that you can hold virtually.
One of the best ones we've found is using CrowdPer. We've used it in the past for trivia games, and they also have polling services as well. There's also SurveyMonkey, which our campus has used many times for various needs, and also any form of a group chat and group messenger, such as Discord or Instagram.
Once you've found your successor, the next step is to set them up for success as much as possible by spending some time training them. Ideally, if you've been able to hold your elections a couple weeks before the end of a quarter, you've got some time to have your new officers shadow the old ones. And step 3 is to leave behind a detailed legacy document and catalog of information about the club, your position, and how it works, especially if you aren't able to spend any time training your new officers. No matter how much you try and give them in person, there's always going to be something you might have forgotten, and in the middle of the year, it might be hard for them to be able to reach out to you and say, hey, how did you solve this problem? Or how do I access this resource? And by the time this episode is released, there will be a Club Legacy document template uploaded on the club webpage to help get you started. And the next step is to make sure you've got strong communication with student life. Introduce your new officers to the student life staff, and specifically to me because I'll be working with your new officers and overseeing your club as it starts in the fall. And lastly, I want to caution you not to rush choosing just any leader to continue the club. Because step 5 is asking yourself the question, do you need to let the club hibernate? One of the hardest positions for a club leader to find themselves in is getting to the end of a year, knowing that they have to transition out, and realizing that they don't have anybody to succeed them in leading the club. I've seen a lot of clubs struggle to try and keep a club going, even when they're losing members and they haven't been able to find a good replacement for a president. And sometimes the best thing for you to do is let the club hibernate. Let the community tell you when it's time for a specific club to come back, when there's enough interest and energy coming from the student population that it almost is crying out to be a club again. But hopefully you're not in that position, and you're ready to just wrap things up for the end of this year and look ahead to how you're going to start for next year. The key to being successful as the club starts again in the fall is keeping in contact with each other and discussing how you're going to start the new year over the summer. Doesn't have to be very often, just a couple times. Touch on what kind of things your club might like to do for Clubs Rush, your first meetings, what kind of things you want to change. Get a head start in some of your planning. We hope the tips and tricks and advice that we've presented in this episode have made you feel more confident about your club coming back at the beginning of next year. And with that, we've come to the end of another episode of Clubs 201, specifically the last episode of this academic year.
And with the end of the academic year comes also the end of my time as the Clubs and Organization Senator. I would just like to wish all the clubs the best of luck.
And of course, I'll be seeing you again in the fall, even though we'll be online. So I'm just hoping you have an excellent summer and are ready to get right back to work when we start the new year. So from Walter
and William,
thanks for listening.